Hello there. The lights are glowing softly tonight, and the world feels a little quieter, a little kinder. Wrap your blanket closer. Breathe in and out. Let the day fall away like snow settling on the windowsill. Tonight, I'll tell you a Christmas story about a small bakery, a golden window, and the ways we find each other when winter is at its deepest. Ready? Close your eyes and listen. The golden window. On the corner where Snow Street curls like a comma around the old clock tower, there sits a bakery with a single warm window. The rest of the shop, a brick face, a chalkboard sign, a tiny bell above the door, keeps itself modest, almost shy. But the window glows. Even on gray mornings when the sun cannot find the town, the window is golden, lamplight pooling over little sugar stars, tins of cinnamon, and rows of gingerbread cooling like sleepy soldiers after a parade. People say the bakery opens whenever the first true snow of December falls. Not the flurries that come too early and melt by lunch. Not dramatic blizzards that make you worry about roofs. The first true snow, the kind that settles, hushes the streets, and makes everything smell like wet wool and pine. That's when the baker returns, and the bell above the door remembers its song. This year, the first true snow falls late. The townfolk stand at their windows, craning to see if flakes stick to fences. Children cup their hands to try to catch the sky. The old clock shivers on the hour. At last, one afternoon, the clouds commit. Flakes the size of thumbprints drift down and keep drifting, soft but certain. By dusk, Snow Street is sugared, and the lamplight's breath shows like a speech bubble. And as if the night had been waiting for its cue, the bakery window blooms gold. Mara and the red scarf. Mara sees the window from the bus stop. She's 19, maybe 20, old enough to be brave in theory, young enough to get lost in her own thoughts. The red scarf around her neck was her mother's once. It smells faintly of clove and laundry soap. Mara presses her mitten to the fog glass of the bus shelter and stares across the street. There it is, the glow her mother used to talk about. Gold like toast, her mother would say, half laughing, like inside a storybook. Mara steps out into the snowfall, the red scarf bright as a berry. She crosses to the bakery and reads the chalkboard that some returning someone, had already written on. Tonight only. Snowflake rolls, sleepy cinnamon, memory tea, with honey, lemon, and a whisper of time. Beneath the list, a drawing of a tiny star with a smile. Her breath clouds the board. Flakes gather on her lashes. She hesitates, hand on the door. Feelings can be heavier in the winter, like boots. But the bell above the door, a little impatient now, nudges her onward. The baker returns. Inside smells like vanilla thinking of summer. The glass case holds moon crescent cookies dusted with sugar, a plum tart as glossy as a pond, and little round rolls that shine with egg wash. The air hums with quiet heat. "Welcome," says a voice that sounds like a coat being placed gently on a hook. Mara looks up. The baker stands with a flour-dusted apron and a streak of cinnamon on her cheek. Her hair is pinned in a way that says, "I meant to do it this way," although a curl keeps escaping near her temple. She is neither young nor old. She is exactly the age of someone who can fold a sheet of dough into a swan and never brag. There's a kindness in her eyes, the kind that notices unspoken sentences. "First time?" the baker asks. Mara nods. "First time alone." The baker's smile turns knowing. "Then you should start with something warm you can break apart. Snowflake roll?" Mara nods again, and the baker's hands move, cutting, buttering, a brush of sugar, a touch of steam. "Memory tea?" "Please," Mara says, the words steady in her chest like a candle finding its wick. Memory tea. The bakery keeps 3 tables by the window and 1 by the bookshelf that leans like a friend. Mara sits by the window where the lamplight and the snowfall agree to keep each other company. The cup is thin and white. The tea rises fragrant and mild. She holds the saucer with both hands until she can feel a heartbeat settle. The first sip is lemon, then thyme, then a sense of something found. Her mother used to speak in winter recipes. "When I miss you," she wrote once in a note that Mara found folded in a cookbook, "I bake you. I bake the mornings, the laughter, the school drop-offs, the scraped knees. Sugar helps the broken edges stick." When her mother got sick, the recipes got shorter. A soup of 3 things, a tea of 2. When you can't remember, boil water, the last note said. The steam knows your name. Mara closes her eyes and imagines the steam spelling her name on the window. M-A-R-A. When she opens them, the letters have fogged and vanished. But the feeling remains. The old radio. The baker, polishing a tray, reaches under the counter and brings out a radio with wood sides and a dial tone that glows palely. She turns it slowly, and after a minute, the station arrives. Tiny and tender, like a postcard from the 90s tucked into a shoebox. A carol drifts from the speaker, something with bells that tap rather than ring. The hush of the choir at the edges. The music colors the room. "Helps the dough rise," the baker says, and Mara can't tell if she's joking. The doorbell welcomes a new visitor, an elderly man with a scarf that has seen many Decembers. He brings in colder air and a particular smell of library stacks. "You are open," he breathes, relief softening his shoulders. He rubs his hands and laughs at himself. "I kept walking by all week like a fool, waiting for the snow to choose mercy." "It finally did." The baker greets him by name. "Mr. Albert, your usual?" "If you've kept it," he teases, but his eyes have a sheen of gratitude. He takes a table beside the bookshelf and watches the snow like a film he's already favorited. Mara breaks her roll. The inside is a marvel of tenderness and warmth, a cloud that held hands with an oven and learned loyalty. Butter sighs, sugar twinkles. She eats slowly, each bite a door she can step through without a hurry. Letters in flower. By the case, a girl of 7, no, maybe 8, peers over the edge with precise seriousness. A knitted hat, shaped like a polar bear, sits on her head, ears slightly askew. She points at a cookie with a snowflake iced on top, as delicate as frost on glass. "That one," she says, "but not for me." "For who then?" the baker asks. "For the lady who lives above the shoe repair. She's lonely in the way that you notice even if you don't try." The baker's glance warms. What a good noticing. The girl considers this. Noticing is easy if you look as if there's a secret. "What should I write on the tag?" the baker asks, taking a tiny card and pen. The girl speaks carefully. "I hope next Christmas you have a visitor on purpose." Mara's throat catches. The baker nods and writes exactly that in her neat hand. She tucks the cookie in a wax bag and ties it with a blue string. The girl pays with a handful of coins and a button shaped like a star. The baker takes the button like currency. "Perfect," she says, as if the star button is exactly the exchange rate for kindness. The bell rings as the girl leaves, the bag held like a secret package in a cartoon. The baker's eyes meet Mara's for a second, and in that second, Mara understands. In some places, the economy is care, and everyone is a little richer in the winter. A story about once. Mr. Albert clears his throat. "I used to come here when I was a teacher," he tells the baker, and the words invite the whole room to listen. "The woman before you, your aunt, was it? She made scones with orange peel, and we'd grade papers by the window and pretend we were philosophers." The baker nods. My aunt did keep this place. She said the oven knew the town's birthdays and heartbreaks better than the postman. Mr. Albert smiles. The oven saved my holidays twice. The year I forgot my sister's birthday, and the year the power went out. I bought a bag of candles, and paid for buns by washing the mixing bowls. We told ghost stories until morning. Mara's lips curve. She imagines the bakery by candlelight, the oven giving off low waves of comfort, the room full of people who don't know yet that they are each other's answers. What happened to your aunt? Mara asks softly. The baker's eyes go to the radio dial, as if she's turning a memory. She left me the recipes and took a train to the sea. Every now and then, I get a postcard with a flowery thumbprint on it. She never writes much, just a list of birds she's seen, and at the bottom, a line. Open the window on the first true snow. The Polaroid box. Behind the counter sits a small shoebox with a ribbon around it, frayed with years. The baker opens it when the night feels brave enough. Inside, Polaroids, edges scuffed, colors softened like sweaters. The baker spreads a few on the counter, a private exhibit for the room. In one picture, a little boy stands on tiptoes to see the counter, a missing front tooth, eyes like exclamation points. In another, two teenagers laugh with noses nearly touching, powdered sugar on their lips, the word promises faintly visible on the poster in the background. A third shows a woman in a postal uniform, asleep in a corner chair, a cinnamon roll next to her untouched, steam telling the story of her nap. Customers leave them sometimes, the baker says, or I take them if someone says, this is the best moment that will ever be. Do you ever send them? Mara asks. Only if they're a map, the baker says. Sometimes you need a picture to remind you where you walk in the world when the snow is too much. Mara reaches towards a photo and stops, not touching, just hovering. It's of a mother tying a scarf around a child's neck. The frame's full of love that learned to stand on 2 feet. The child's hair is flyaway. The mother's cheeks are wind-kissed. The bakery window behind them glows the same gold as now. On the back, in neat handwriting, for when she goes somewhere I can't follow yet. Mara swallows. The scarf at her throat warms in recognition. The midnight loaf. As the evening deepens, the baker begins a midnight loaf. It won't be ready until late, she warns, but everyone in the shop knows that late is when the magic looks up from its book and says, "Fine, come in." She folds the dough. The room watches without watching, like you watch someone who's teaching you a lullaby with their hands. Bread remembers, the baker says, mostly to herself. It holds the warmth you give it and returns in a better shape. Mr. Albert, having finished his tea, stands to put a record from a little stack on the shelf into an old player. It crackles alive. Soft strings, a piano wandering home. The bakery becomes a small theater of gentle tasks. A cup refilled, a crumb brushed away, a scarf unknotted and rehung across the chair like a companion. Mara drifts to the bookshelf. The spines are a neighborhood of colors. A small book with a green cover catches her finger. Winter letters. Inside, the margins are full of tidy notes with pencil. Try time with lemon. Never underestimate the therapy of folding napkins. If you have only one candle, put it where it will be a friend to the room. On the title page, an inscription. To the window that taught me how to be warm. She doesn't realize she's crying until the tear falls on the page and the pencil smudges into a small gray cloud. She wipes her cheek, embarrassed. The baker notices, because bakers notice. She brings a clean handkerchief with a star stitched in one corner. We keep extras for onion days, she says. What are onion days? Mara asks, accepting the square. Any days that make your eyes sting, even if you aren't chopping anything. Mara nods, presses the handkerchief to her eyes, and breathes until the world becomes manageable again. Deliveries by footprints. A teenage boy in a Letterman jacket steps in with the clatter of courage. He looks around as if he's studying for a test. Do you, make apology cookies? He asks the baker. We make sincerity in many shapes, she says cheerfully. What happened? He shuffles. I said something dumb to my best friend. And then I said something dumber trying to fix the first thing. Now it's like stacking dumb things on a wobbly table. Stacking is an art, the baker says. She chooses 6 heart-shaped cookies. Nothing fancy. A little frosting, a dash of sprinkle. She boxes them and ties a ribbon. Take these to your friend, she says. Walk slowly, so the footprints show, in case Courage needs to follow you later. The boy nods, handling the box like it might teach him. Before he leaves, he glances at Mara, takes in the handkerchief in her lap, and offers a shy, shared smile that says, We're all trying, aren't we? She returns it. The bell sings him out into the snowfall. The star button price. Later, the girl with the polar bear hat returns, cheeks pink with duty completed. She cried, the girl reports solemnly. But the good cry. She said she felt seen. That's the best kind, the baker says. Do you want a warm roll for walking back? I don't have any more money, the girl says. She holds up an empty palm. You have a star button, the baker replies mildly. And the girl grins, caught and delighted. The baker pretends to consider a complex ledger. A star button covers a roll and a tiny bag of sugar for your cocoa later. The girl gasps and stashes the sugar like treasure and leans in conspiratorially. I think your window tells secrets, she whispers to the baker. What kind? The kind you only hear if you're kind back. The baker nods, as if the window and she had been co-workers for years. We do try to hire wisely, she says. The letter under the map. When the shop quiets to a purr, Mara stands. Could I? She begins, then stops. Do you ever take letters? For whom? The baker asks. For the first true snow. My mother used to say that the snow had a thread that runs through the whole winter. I'd like to put something on that thread, in case it reaches where she is. The baker's face becomes the soft yes of a lamp being turned on. She takes a small card from the jar by the register. Write it, she says. You can tuck it under the doormat. The snow knows to check there. Mara sits again, card before her like a blank window. She writes in small, careful letters. Hi, Mom. I found the golden window. It's real. It smells like cinnamon and relief. The tea is the exact kind you would have told me to ask for. I wore your red scarf and felt less alone. If you're anywhere that has windows, look for the one that looks back at you. I will meet you there someday, somehow. Love, Mara. She signs her name and a tiny star, and the baker lends her a piece of twine to tie around the card. She slips it beneath the mat. Outside, the snow receives her offering with respect. Midnight, and the loaf speaks. Midnight arrives quietly, as if the hour is shy. The loaf is ready. The baker lifts it from the oven and places it on the board, and scores the top with a small star. Just once, like a blessing. Would you like the first slice? She asks Mara. Mara hesitates. Is that allowed? In this room, the baker says, we allow many firsts. The first brave thing. The first kind word said out loud. The first time someone calls something mine and means hope, not ownership. Mara takes the slice. Steam climbs into the air like a story continuing even after you fall asleep. She tears the bread and shares a piece with Mr. Albert, who chuckles and says he hasn't been up at midnight for 2 years, except for the meteors. They eat, and the bread tastes like everything winter asks and everything winter returns. Patience, Heat, salt, time. The radio plays a final carol, low and far, as if angels are humming. Closing the window, keeping the light. The baker flips the sign to close, but no one hurries to leave. This is the last part of the ritual, the staying a little longer, watching the world beyond the glass grow softer, letting the warmth gather in your coat like a stowaway. Mara stands and wraps her scarf, tucking the ends in the way her mother did in the photo. "Thank you," she tells the baker, which means many things. For the roll, for the tea, for the handkerchief, for the permission to leave the letter under the mat appointer. "Come back when the snow remembers you again," the baker says. It usually does. Mr. Albert bows in an old-fashioned way that means my heart is standing up for you. He pockets a second slice of bread for breakfast, looks at the snow like an old friend he'll walk home with, and steps into the night. Mara lingers one more second. The golden window glows at her side, like a lighthouse whose beam is only wide enough for one person. She touches the door frame with her gloved fingers and feels, absurdly, that it squeezes back. Snow Street After. Snow Street at Night is a poem written by footprints and lamplight. Mara walks slowly, like the teenage boy carrying the apologies was told to do, leaving a neat, honest line in the fresh powder. The clock tower marks the hour with a modest chime. No pomp, just a gentle reminder to breathe. Across the way, the shoe repair shop window is dark, but the upstairs light is on. A thin silhouette moves once, then stands still, as if listening to a sentence that had finally included their name. Mara hopes the cookie is sweet, and the message lands like a bird that knows exactly where your shoulder is. She passes the bus stop where she started and keeps going. The town has a different shape now, like a familiar room, after you move a chair and realize you've been walking around a path that wasn't needed. The scarf is warm. Her hands are warm. Her chest, the part that misplaces joy sometimes, especially in the winter, is warmer. She looks back only once, because the magic of farewells is to try not to call them back to beginnings. The bakery window glows. A figure moves inside. Maybe the baker, maybe the memory of the baker, tidying something that really never was out of place. Morning notes. In the morning, the snow is honest. It has kept the prints. Mara's, the teenage boys, Mr. Albert's, and the little girl's hops of triumph. The town reads them like music. The baker finds the card under the mat, damp at the edges, but legible. She reads it once, twice, and tucks it in the Polaroid box with a ribbon. On the back she writes, "Return to the snow's thread. If you ever need this back, ask the window politely." She puts on the kettle and writes the day's chalkboard. Toast plus jam, berry. Quiet slices, letters welcome. Then she stands by the window for a moment, hands on the still, faces in the light. The radio plays a morning song. Something with a guitar that sounds like the sun figuring itself out. Above the shoe repair, the upstairs window opens a few inches. A hand rests on the still, knuckles pale, ring catching light. A napkin waves. The baker waves back. Years fold like napkins. Winter returns the way good books do. Same cover, different heart. The bakery opens on the first true snow, as promised. People add their pages to the story. The teenage boy comes back with his best friend. Both of them are talking at the same time, the way forgiveness makes room. They bring the ribbon from the apology box and tie it to the radio antenna for luck. The girl with the polar bear hat grows into the girl with the knit cap of her own making, and the young woman with the sketchbook who draws the bakery from across the street under different moods of the sky. Mr. Albert keeps his appointment with the midnight loaf every solstice, sometimes bringing a poem he pretends to not have written. Mara becomes a person who boils water when she forgets who she is. On the toughest days, she wears the red scarf and lets it carry her a little. She moves apartments, then moves again. She gets a plant that survives her learning. She keeps a tiny tin of time on the counter and a note on her fridge that says, "Put the candle where it will be friends with the room." Once, on a deep blue evening, 2 winters later, she walks by the bakery and sees a little boy standing on tiptoe, missing his front teeth, eyes like exclamation points. She smiles at the repetition and decides some circles are not traps, but dances. Return with a letter. On the first true snow of another December, older now, and a new steadiness in her step, Mara returns. The bell recognizes her. The baker is the same and different, too, as anyone after seasons. They greet each other with the calm of people who share a language. "I kept meaning to come sooner," Mara says. "You came exactly when you were supposed to," the baker replies, which is a sentence that helps you forgive the calendar. Mara orders memory tea and a snowflake roll, for tradition. She takes a table by the window. Snow flurries. The radio finds a carol that hums like a hush. "I brought something," Mara says after a while. She slides an envelope across the counter, or the box, or the thread, whichever needs it. The baker turns the envelope. It's addressed simply, "For anyone who needs the window tonight." She nods and adds it to the Polaroid box, tying the frayed ribbon a little tighter. "Would you like to see an old photograph?" the baker asks. Mara nods. The baker pulls out a picture of the mother tying the red scarf around a child. She places it on the counter, like a candle lit in daylight. "I think," the baker says gently, "this always knew it would be found." Mara touches the edge with one finger, the way you touch the edge of a lake before you swim. "Yes," she says, "me too." The window's secret. Before she leaves, Mara stands at the window. It's only glass, only light, only a sill polished by wrists and elbows. But also, it isn't only anything. It is the place where the inside and outside agree to be kind. She places her palm against the cool pane and feels a faint pulse of the bakery, the oven's warmth, the radio's hum, the baker's steady breath, and beneath it all, the winter's own slow heartbeat, patient as a tide under snow. She remembers what the girl said years ago. The kind you only hear if you're kind back. So Mara listens with kindness in her body, and in listening, she hears it, the quiet secret of the window. You are part of the warmth you seek. She nods, as if a teacher asked whether she understands. She does. She really does. Homeward. Mara wraps her scarf and steps into the drifted night. The air is a good kind of cold. Cheeks pink, thoughts clear. She walks past the clock tower, past the shoe repair, past the bus stop where the world once changed directions. Her footprints draw a new line beside the old one, a harmony rather than a replacement. Behind her, the bakery dims its lamp by a notch, not to vanish, just to rest. The radio leans into a final instrumental that could be a lullaby, or just winter thinking. The baker wipes the counter, checks the oven, and sets a clean handkerchief stitched with a star next to the register, ready for the next onion day that comes through the door. Thank you for keeping me company by the golden window. If you ever need to come back, first true snow always knows the way. Rest now, and remember, you are part of the warmth you seek. Good night, and sweet dreams.